For over 2 decades, Madame Clarissa poured her soul into the business she built from scratch. Long nights shipping textiles from Turkey, early mornings negotiating with clearing agents at Apapa port, and endless market runs under Lagos sun. She was only 29 when her husband died suddenly, leaving her with 3 toddlers and a bank account that barely held enough to feed them. But where others folded, Clarissa fought. With grit and God, she turned a small corner shop into Clartex Imports, a thriving mini-importation empire. Now at 54, Clarissa looked around her Lekki home with pride. Her eldest, Mabel, was a UK-trained nurse. Chuka, always the numbers guy, had landed a high-paying job at a commercial bank. And Adiz, the baby of the house, ran a fashion brand with over 100k Instagram followers. They wore designer clothes, flew business class, and lived like royalty. All because Clarissa made sure they never saw the hunger she once knew. But beneath her bright gelly and practiced smile, the cracks were widening. A major investor, her silent financial backbone, had pulled out after a bad political shakeup. Her warehouse rent was overdue, the port was holding her last shipment, and she had mortgaged the family house without telling anyone. She prayed daily, hoping the next deal would click, praying her children would never find out. After all she had done, how could she tell them that their empire was now standing on borrowed time and borrowed money? Clarissa had become a master at pretending. Every morning, she tied her gelly high, applied her soft pink lipstick, and walked with the poise of a woman who had it all together. But her phone buzzed endlessly. Unknown numbers, strange voices demanding repayment, threats wrapped in fake politeness. She blocked one line, they called on another. Her heart raced with every ring. Then one Thursday afternoon the storm broke. Chuka, back early from work, spotted an envelope tucked between kitchen tiles. Curiosity made him pull it out. His eyes scanned the page. Red-stamped final notice. Unpaid warehouse rent. Nigerian or 4.2 million. His voice boomed across the house. "Mummy, what is this?" Clarissa froze, phone in hand, unable to form a word. Within minutes, Mabel came down the stairs, Adiz trailing behind, her silk bonnet still on. "You lied to us," Mabel snapped. "All these years. We thought you were in control." "I was protecting you," Clarissa whispered. "I didn't want you to worry." "Reckless," Adiz muttered, eyes wide with disbelief. "You mortgaged this house. Are we homeless now?" "Maybe it's best if you leave," Chuka said sharply. "We need peace. We can't deal with your mess." Clarissa blinked, stunned. Surely they didn't mean it. But their faces were cold, unmoved. No one stopped her as she walked to her room. Her trembling hands folded a few wrappers into a faded bag. She glanced once at their framed childhood photo. Her babies, grinning in school uniforms she once sold jewelry to afford. She closed the door softly behind her. Not even a goodbye. Rain soaked through the thin fabric of Clarissa's wrapper as she wandered the dark streets of Enugu, her slippers squelching with each step. The neon signs of shuttered kiosks flickered above her like mockery. She had nowhere to go. No friend she hadn't distanced herself from in her years of sacrifice. No sibling who wouldn't ask questions she was too broken to answer. A passing Okada splashed muddy water at her feet, but she didn't flinch. Her eyes were vacant, her arms tightly wrapped around a nylon bag containing only 2 wrappers, a bottle of water, and an old framed photo of her late husband. She gripped it like a lifeline. Under an abandoned stall behind Ogbeat Market, she crouched low, trembling from the cold. Her back pressed against the damp wall. She stared into the darkness, lost in memory. She remembered pawning her wedding ring to buy Mabel's first biology textbook, selling her only gold necklace so Adiz could attend a fashion seminar, canceling every date, party, and invitation that didn't involve her children's future. They had been her entire world. Now they'd cast her out like a stranger. Clarissa clutched the photo close, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Ben, I tried," she whispered to the face of the man who once promised to never leave her side. The thunder cracked in the distance, echoing the ache in her chest. And as the rain poured harder, Clarissa lay still, broken, abandoned, but not yet finished. The morning came like a reluctant sigh. Clarissa stirred on the cold slab of concrete beneath the abandoned stall, her wrapper damp and her bones aching from the chill. Her throat was parched, stomach hollow, but she didn't move, until the scent of roasted corn drifted through the air like a whispered invitation. "Madam," a voice called gently. Clarissa blinked and turned. Standing beside a wooden tray of corn and pear was a stout older woman in a faded Ankara wrapper and plastic slippers. Her eyes, though sunken, held warmth. "You day all right?" Clarissa sat up slowly, embarrassed. "I'm fine, thank you," she croaked. Mama Ifioma didn't press. Instead, she walked over, tore a cob in half, and handed it to her. "No be shame to chop. Everybody see bad day." Clarissa hesitated, then accepted it. The first bite almost made her cry. Mama Ifioma later returned with water and a wrapper. "Follow me go house. Rain go fall again." Clarissa protested at first, pride still lingering. But the older woman wouldn't hear it. That evening, she was given a mat, a warm meal, and a silence that felt like kindness. By the next day, Clarissa insisted on helping. She fetched water, cleaned the trays, arranged corn by size. "You no be guest," Mama Ifioma chuckled. "You be sister." In days, Clarissa found a rhythm, sweeping the stall before dawn, handling customers with poise. Her voice returned. Her smile, faint at first, grew a little wider. She wasn't healed yet, but she had found a hand when she expected none. And sometimes that was the beginning. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped low and the roasted corn fire sizzled beside her, Clarissa finally opened up. She sat on a low stool beside Mama Ifioma, her fingers busy peeling roasted pears, but her voice trembled with memory. "I wasn't always like this," she began. "I had a business. Imports, staff, contracts. Then I lost it all. My children, they turned their backs." Mama Ifioma listened silently, nodding occasionally, eyes moist but proud. "You still day stand. That one means say God never finish your story." Seated nearby on a bench, a regular customer named Mr. Emeka, a tall, quiet man in his 60s with silver-framed glasses and a walking stick, had overheard more than intended. He looked up from his roasted corn and said gently, "You ran an importation business?" Clarissa turned, surprised. "For over 20 years. Then you might be the person I've been praying for," he said. Days later, he returned and asked to speak with her privately. In a modest office behind a small, dusty warehouse, he laid out his plan, NE Logistics, a small-scale delivery startup he was secretly funding for widows and struggling women. "But I need someone who understands structure, customs, port systems. Someone with real grit." Clarissa stared at the old man, torn between disbelief and hope. "Why me?" "Because you've fallen, yet you didn't stay down." Hesitant but guided by instinct, she accepted. She got to work immediately, cleaning the warehouse, reorganizing shelves, drafting spreadsheets by candlelight. Slowly the place took shape. With every box sorted and every delivery made, Clarissa felt something inside her rising again. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was building again, this time not just for her children, but for herself. Back at the once bustling mansion in Lekki, silence had become a haunting companion. Without Clarissa, the house felt colder, emptier, like something sacred had been ripped from its walls. Mabel sat on the edge of her bed, trembling as she read the email again. Property documents invalid. Developer arrested. Funds unrecoverable. 12 million Nigerian nairas gone, her entire savings. She had trusted a friend who promised discounted real estate. Now, she couldn't sleep without seeing the man's smug face in her dreams. Chuka, meanwhile, battled demons of his own. His bank was being investigated for illegal offshore accounts. His supervisor was arrested, and now Chuka's name was on a growing list of people of interest. His phone barely stopped ringing, EFCC, auditors, lawyers. For the first time, he wished his mother were there to say, "Don't panic. Think." Adiz wasn't spared either. Her fashion label, once the darling of Instagram, was now a trending scandal. A UK designer had accused her of plagiarism, and screenshots were flying online. Her followers turned to critics overnight, sponsors backed out, and her reputation crumbled. The siblings argued often now, over money, over responsibilities, over blame. Every time one tried to speak about their mother, another changed the topic. No one said it out loud, but they all felt it, the weight of her absence. Clarissa had been their anchor, their calm in every storm. And now that storm had come, and they were drowning in it. Months had passed, but Clarissa was no longer the woman who once cried herself to sleep on a market slab. Dressed in a crisp blue blouse and neatly tied headscarf, she now walked through the gates of Mama Swift Logistics with the quiet authority of someone who had wrestled life and won. What started as a humble delivery startup had exploded in growth. With Clarissa's experience and Mr. Emeka's quiet backing, they expanded routes, streamlined operations, and launched a training program for single mothers and widows. Every Friday, Clarissa stood before a room of women, her voice steady and warm as she taught them how to handle clients, track parcels, and manage crises with confidence. "You don't need anyone's pity," she told them. "You need structure, purpose, and faith." Word spread quickly. Customers praised the efficiency, the heart in their service. Orders doubled. Then, a journalist from Niger Women Weekly arrived unannounced. Days later, Clarissa's face appeared on the cover beneath the headline, "The Phoenix Woman: How One Widow Rose from the Ashes of Betrayal to Build an Empire for Others." Clarissa stared at the magazine in her hands, heart thudding. It wasn't about fame, it was about validation. Proof that her pain had birthed something greater than survival. Behind her, the dispatch bikes revved up for the day's deliveries. Inside, trainees laughed and worked together. And for the first time in a long while, Clarissa smiled, not just with her lips, but with her whole spirit. The ad was simple. Mama Swift Logistics seeks entry-level operations assistants. No experience required. Training provided. With their finances in chaos and reputations in tatters, the siblings didn't have the luxury of pride anymore. Mabel applied first, using the alias Igioma Uma. Chuka followed as Tund Williams, and Adiz crafted a fake name and new email. None of them realized they were walking into the very empire their mother had rebuilt from dust. Interview day came. They arrived separately, dressed modestly, worn down by reality but hopeful. The receptionist smiled politely, checked their names off the list, and asked them to wait in the sleek lobby. The logo above the front desk read, "Mama Swift Logistics, we deliver with heart." Adiz barely noticed it. Upstairs, behind a thick pane of tinted glass, Clarissa sat in a well-lit office, reviewing 3 resumes side by side. Her hands trembled. The names were fake, but the details, the schools, the tone were unmistakable. Her children, the very ones who told her to leave, now sitting in her lobby, seeking help they didn't know would come from her. She stood, walked to the edge of the tinted glass and watched. Mabel checked her nails nervously. Chuka stared at the tiled floor. Adiz fidgeted with her handbag strap. None of them looked up. Clarissa turned to the receptionist. "Tell them. The CEO had to step out. We'll reschedule." And just like that she walked away, quiet, unreadable. Not out of vengeance, but something deeper, something unfinished. Clarissa drove away from the office with her hands steady on the wheel, but her chest swirled with emotions she couldn't name. Bitterness, triumph, sorrow, pride. The city lights blurred past her as she whispered a silent prayer, not of revenge but of peace. When she parked outside Mr. Emeka's compound, he was already waiting by the garden steps, sipping palm wine like it was ritual. "I saw them today," she said softly. He nodded, unsurprised. "The world is small, Clarissa, but grace is big." She smiled faintly. "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't even see myself." Meanwhile, back at Mama Swift Logistics, the 3 siblings had unknowingly been accepted, placed under intense probation and trained by the company's toughest team leads. No one gave them slack. No titles, no pity. Chuka grumbled under his breath as he loaded boxes. Adiz struggled to keep pace with the warehouse inventory system. Mabel, used to being in charge, now took instructions from a 22-year-old ex-housemaid turned supervisor. But it was one evening, long after the day's chaos, that truth began to seep through. Mabel stood by the back hallway near the dispatch bay, wiping sweat from her brow, when she overheard two staff gossiping. "You know, say the owner of this place no woman. Real strong woman oh. Her children throwy when she go broke. Look where she reach now." Mabel's hand froze mid-air. A chill gripped her spine. She started from nothing, after her own children threw her out. Her pulse raced. She stepped out from the shadows. Who are you talking about?" The workers exchanged a quick glance. "You never hear." And in that moment something shifted. The beginning of a truth too sharp to ignore. To be continued. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when part 2 drops. You won't want to miss what happens next.